What's up, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Sitdown. I am your host, Chef Nadu. As always, if you appreciate and like our videos, make sure you hit the like button and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. As always, if you want more Mafia content, check out all my videos and also go check out my podcast, The Sitdown, a Mafia history podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcast. We have new episodes out every Wednesday. Go check out our latest episode on Lucchese, Capo, and High Up. Vario. Let's get into the video for today. We got a good one. We're going to talk about a fascinating plot to kill mob rat, Sammy Gravano. We're going to get into the particulars, who was involved, what would happen, and where are those individuals today? Next on Sitdown Shorts. In 1992, as we know, family boss John Gotti and other members of the family would head to prison for a long list of charges, including murder, racketeering, and other things. As we know, Sammy Gravano would defect and become a federal witness. There we see him with his hand raised as he took the stand and testified against Gotti and Frankie Locascio. In 1996, Gotti would be nestled into Marion Prison in Indiana, where he began his life sentence. As we know, we've seen many conversations involving him and other family members. One individual that would see him regularly was his brother, Peter Gotti. By this point, Peter was handling the messenger duties between John and the streets. And they would have conspicuous conversations. They would talk about food and family and side pieces and all sorts of different things. But in 1996, they would have a fascinating conversation where Gotti would claim to Gotti, his brother, that, quote, there's a bill that still has to be paid. Now, that would be talking about Mr. Gravano. By this point, Gravano had fulfilled his federal prison sentence and was in Witsec in Arizona. Peter Gotti would be tasked down the road with taking care of that piece of work. In 1999, John was dealing with health problems, and his son, John A. Jr. Gotti, would go to prison. At this point, Peter would be tasked as the official boss of the Gambino crime family. He had come a long way from the New York City Sanitation Department and was now in control of the day-to-day operations inside the family. Now, by 1999, this bill was overdue and it needed to be paid. So Gotti would assemble a hit squad to conspire and head down to sunny Arizona to take out Mr. Gravano. The first person that would be involved would be an individual called Eddie Garafala. Garafala was a family member of Gravano and would basically coordinate where actually Gravano was, and he would feed that information to the two hitters. Now, as many people know about Garafalo, he was playing both sides. He was actually someone that would persuade Gravano to turn informant, according to Gravano. But he would ultimately dispel away from that and would be involved in the hit squad that would, down the road, attempt to kill Sammy. The first individual that would be the main hitter in this case was Thomas Huck Carbonaro. Now, Carbonaro was a loyal soldier and a long-time soldier in the family. And it was said at one point he was actually in Gravano's crew in Brooklyn. Carbonaro lived in Staten Island, and he hated rats, according to many people. He had a tattoo that said something like, rats get fat while good men die. That was his tattoo that he had, I believe, on his arm. He was someone that was trusted, and he would be promised a promotion to Capo regime if he was able to take care of this important piece of work. The other individual involved in this conspired hit was Salvatore Fat Sal Mangiavillano. Now, Mangiavillano was actually a little-known associate of the family. He would actually win over Huck Carbonaro. A little bit about Fat Sal. He's not to be confused with Capo regime in the family, Salvatore Fat Sal Scala. Mangiavillano was actually a individual that could come to America from Argentina. He was an Italian-born Argentinian who would actually come to Brooklyn with his family. They would set up in Bensonhurst. And as a teenager and in his early 20s, Fat Sal would steal cars, he would sell narcotics, and he would eventually graduate to robbing banks. He was doing bank jobs all up and down the Mid-Atlantic and East Coast and was adept at doing them. He would balloon to up over 400 pounds. And in 1995 in Delaware, he would be jammed up and do 18 months in federal prison. Now, subsequent to his release, he would be deported back to Argentina. Now, that would not worry Fat Sal. He would eventually go to Canada, and on the back of a jet ski, he would report back to America somehow and get back into the country. That jet ski story is true, and you can look it up. Fat Sal was getting back to Brooklyn. It's that simple. It was said that at one point, Fat Sal would actually take care of a favor for someone that was screwing with Huck Carbonaro's family, and he would be indebted to Fat Sal for a while. And that would be where Huck Carbonaro would call on his little protege to be involved in this conspiracy. Now, this conspiracy would take time and it would take patience. Carbonaro and Mangiavillano would head down to Arizona, would actually go to crazy lengths to stay anonymous. Now, Gravano didn't know who Fat Sal was, but he knew who Carbonaro was. Carbonaro, it was said, would grow a large beard. He would start wearing earrings. He would completely alter his appearance. Both Fat Sal and Thomas Huck Carbonaro would also get new identities. Huck would go by a new name of Henry Payne, and he would live in Glendale, Arizona. He would get a new driver's license as well. Fat Sal would get a new name of Paul Milano, and he would reside in Flagstaff, a mountainous town near Tucson. Now, interestingly enough, these two would go to a couple lengths to kill Gravano. Now, one of the ideas was they would get a Claymore mine that they would time and blow Gravano up. That didn't work. They also considered a long scope hunting rifle where they would blow him away from hundreds of yards away. That didn't work. They would also surveil his pool construction company, and the very tech-savvy Mangiavillano would rig a camera inside a rented panel truck that he would control from a remote laptop computer. So they would watch his comings and goings. But I think Sammy, I would say one thing about him. He was adept. He knew what was going on. He would state very openly that he was living in Arizona and that he wasn't going to hide from the mafia. He would tell the Arizona Republic, I'm not going to, quote, hide from the fucking mafia. They think I'm going to go to Montana and live in a cabin. That's not what he was going to do. Sammy was someone that had some balls, and he was going to just live openly. He was obviously going to be careful, but he was going to live openly. Obviously, as we know with Gravano, he was not killed, and he's actually now on YouTube telling his life story. Ultimately, this hit would not go down. This would last for a while. I mean, they would head to Arizona in November of '99, and this would last throughout most of the 2000s. Now, in February of 2000, Sammy Gravano would be jammed up, as we know, in a very publicized case involving an ecstasy ring that he would run with his wife, Deborah, and his family. So they couldn't get to him. That wouldn't stop them, though, from attempting to get to Gravano. There was an idea of Carbonaro's to, quote, mail a packaged bomb to Maricopa County Jail, which obviously wouldn't happen. And Gravano would end up getting a long prison sentence where he'd be shipped off to 80X Florence, a supermax in Colorado. Now, for Fat Sal, the parade would rain down on him. He would eventually get jammed up for a string of bank heists that he would be a part of in the late 90s. And Fat Sal would actually be facing a long prison sentence. However, it wouldn't matter. He didn't get to it. Fat Sal Mangiavillano would decide to flip and become a government informant. Now, for Thomas Huck Carbonaro, he pretty much had to see the writing on the wall. He would not only be convicted in this case, but he would also be convicted in participating in the murders of Frank Heidel and construction tycoon Edward Garafalo. Now, that's not to be confused with Eddie Garafala. There were two different people, and Garafalo would be killed in the early 90s, and Thomas Huck Carbonaro would be convicted of those as well. Thomas Carbonaro would be given a 70-year prison sentence, and he is still alive. He is at FMC Devons. He is 74 years old. And in June of 2021, Huck, in his late age, would actually comply and hope to get compassionate release. However, the federal government said, nope, not going to happen. You're staying in prison. According to Huck, he just wants to live out the rest of his life with his family. His projected release date is February of 2063. It's probable and likely Thomas Carbonaro will die in federal prison. Now, Fat Sal Mangiavillano would not surface for a while, but that was until February 2017, where he would appear in a documentary titled Mafia Women with Trevor McDonald. Now, if you know anything, Trevor McDonald is a well-known British documentary filmmaker and writer. And McDonald actually would profile several women that were involved with high-ranking members of the mafia, including Little Linda Scarpa, Tori DiLeonardo, and Anthony Russo, as well as Margaret Romano, who is the wife of Sal Romano. Now, Anthony Russo would appear in this documentary with his new girlfriend. He's a Colombo family informant. And appearing in this documentary was Fat Sal Mangiavillano. That's actually him in the documentary. He's a little bit skinnier. He's still fat, but he's not as fat. And he would appear in several scenes involving his wife and two daughters. His daughter would get married, and he would discuss that he is living quite openly in Florida with other mob rats, including Michael DiLeonardo and Anthony Russo. And he would discuss that, you know, he had to do what he had to do, and he was very public. I strongly urge you, if you haven't seen that, to go watch it. You can find it on YouTube. It is quite an interesting look into the life of mafia women that were involved with high-ranking people in the mob. So, as we know, Sammy the Bull Gravano has a YouTube channel now and a podcast where he tells his story. And obviously, I'm sure many of you watched that. But there was a proposed hit. It never went down. And ultimately, both people involved, one of which actually had the same fate as Gravano. He's now a rat. And Carbonaro still sits as we speak in federal prison. As always, if you enjoy our videos, please make sure you hit the like button and subscribe as well. I'll see you next time with another video here on the